In the small town of Clearwater, nestled by a winding river, lived a man known to all as the River Gambler. His real name was Jake Turner, but he had earned his nickname for his knack for taking risks, not just at the card tables but also when it came to fishing. Jake had an easygoing personality and a heart as big as the river itself. Each morning, he would rise with the sun, grab his fishing pole, and head down to his favorite spot by the water. Everyone in town knew him for his tall tales about the biggest fish that got away, and his infectious laughter that could brighten even the gloomiest days. He cherished the simple pleasures of life, the thrill of catching fish, the sound of water rippling over rocks, and the peace that came from sitting under the shade of an old willow tree. Yet, in recent times, the whispers around town had grown sharper. The atmosphere felt charged with tension as secrets bubbled beneath the surface. Little did Jake know that his brisk morning routine was about to take a dark turn, intertwining his love for fishing with an unexpected twist of fate. What started as a peaceful day by the river would soon spiral into a series of events that would change his life forever. As the sun lifted higher in the sky, Jake Turner cast his line into the shimmering water, relishing the tranquility of the riverbank. Hours passed as he enjoyed the familiar rhythm of fishing, humming a tune and hoping to catch the day's biggest fish. Suddenly, he felt a heavy tug on his line, unlike anything he'd encountered before. With a determined yank, he reeled it in, excitement dancing in his eyes. As the object emerged from the water, Jake's heart sank. What he thought would be a prize catch turned out to be something entirely different, a tarnished sheriff's badge, tangled with glistening river weeds. He couldn't believe his eyes. The badge bore the initials of Sheriff Tom Wilkins, the very lawman who had patrolled Clearwater and kept peace in the town for many years. Jake dropped the fishing pole and took a step back, confusion sweeping over him. A mix of curiosity and fear filled him as he examined the badge closer. It was coated in mud but unmistakably real. Questions raced through his mind. How did it end up in his river? Was something sinister at play? He felt a chill run down his spine, sensing that this discovery would unravel everything he knew about his beloved town. Panic began bubbling beneath the surface as he realized this was just the beginning of a much darker tale. News of Jake's shocking discovery spread like wildfire through Clearwater. Curious townspeople left their homes and gathered along the riverbank, eyes wide with disbelief at the rumors swirling around the sheriff's badge. Eager voices filled the air, each person offering their own theory about what it meant. Some suggested that Sheriff Wilkins had gotten into trouble, while others feared it could be a sign of something more sinister, a crime that could change their quiet town forever. As the crowd grew larger, whispers turned into anxious conversations. People began to speculate about Jake's role in all of this, some questioning whether he might have had a hand in whatever had happened to the sheriff. The atmosphere was thick with uncertainty and fear, and Jake could feel every gaze weighing heavily on him. He tried to defend himself but found it hard to speak amid the chaos. Among the crowd, old Mrs. Thompson clutched her arms around her chest as if trying to reassure herself. "The river never hides good things," she muttered anxiously. Meanwhile, young children listened wide-eyed as older folks shared ghost stories of outlaws and secrets hidden beneath the water's surface. As they continued to speculate about the sheriff's fate, Jake realized that his peaceful life had irrevocably changed. He was now at the center of a storm he never saw coming. The following day, the mood in Clearwater shifted dramatically. The town council convened an emergency meeting, determined to address the chaos stemming from the sheriff's badge discovery. With citizens demanding answers and fearing for their safety, pressure mounted on the council to take swift action. In their haste, they decided to focus their suspicions on Jake. Who else would be fishing near the river at that hour? Mayor Thompson declared passionately as he pointed his finger at Jake. "It's clear he must know more than he's letting on." The other council members nodded in agreement, their faces grave with concern. Their desperation to find a culprit led them to make hasty conclusions, ignoring the facts that were still shrouded in mystery. Before long, news spread through town that Jake was being accused of murder. Whispers turned into shouts, and many townsfolk who once regarded him as a friend now looked at him with suspicion and fear. Accusations flew around like arrows, Everyone had a theory about how he could be involved in whatever happened to Sheriff Wilkins. Jake felt the walls closing in around him as he stood alone against a tide of anger and distrust. Struggling to comprehend how his life had unraveled so quickly, he realized he needed to clear his name before it was too late, not just for himself but for the peace of Clearwater. As Jake faced the growing tide of accusations, the weight of the evidence against him began to mount. A group of townsfolk had been fishing nearby on the day he discovered the sheriff's badge, and they claimed to have seen him arguing with a shadowy figure just before he cast his line. This led some to believe he might have been involved in a secret deal gone wrong. Moreover, an old photograph surfaced, showing Jake standing next to the sheriff at a town event months prior, fueling rumors that they had a deeper connection. The council eagerly seized on these coincidences, presenting them as proof of Jake's guilt. "It's clear he's had motive," Mayor Thompson proclaimed at a town meeting, casting more doubt on Jake's innocence. Adding to the chaos, a local gossip, known for her exaggerated tales, mixed the facts and claimed she overheard Jake threatening the sheriff during their fishing trips. Each version twisted the truth further, leaving citizens convinced that he was a danger to their community. Jake's heart sank as he realized how easily misunderstandings could escalate into accusations of murder. He knew he needed to confront these lies head-on and uncover the truth about what really happened to Sheriff Wilkins before he lost everything that mattered to him. Determined to prove his innocence, Jake decided it was time to take matters into his own hands. He called upon his closest friends, Maggie, the kind-hearted waitress from the local diner, and Charlie, a sharp-witted mechanic with an eye for detail. They both believed in him and were willing to help uncover the truth behind Sheriff Wilkins' death. Together, they started retracing Jake's steps on the day he discovered the badge. Maggie suggested they interview other fishermen who might have seen something that day, while Charlie scoured the area for any additional clues. As they went about their investigation, they found people who shared fragmented stories that slowly began to weave a different picture of events. One fisherman mentioned seeing a suspicious vehicle parked near the river shortly before Jake arrived, which led them to wonder if someone else had been involved. As they dug deeper, strange connections began appearing, whispers about a rival in town who had threatened the sheriff's authority and had motive enough to harm him. With each piece of information gathered, Jake felt a flicker of hope reigniting within him. But he knew time was running out, he needed to act fast before the council solidified their decision against him. With Maggie and Charlie at his side, he felt more determined than ever to clear his name and reveal the real story behind the sheriff's tragic fate. As Jake, Maggie, and Charlie continued their investigation, they stumbled upon a series of old newspaper articles tucked away in the dusty corners of the town library. The headlines detailed controversial actions taken by Sheriff Wilkins over the years, including a few high-profile arrests that had ruffled feathers among some influential townspeople. One article in particular caught Jake's attention. It described a land dispute involving the sheriff and a local businessman named Frank Dalton, who had a reputation for being ruthless. Rumors swirled that Dalton had been angry enough to threaten Wilkins after losing a lucrative deal. The more they read about the sheriff's past, the clearer it became that he had made enemies in his fight for justice. Maggie recalled overhearing whispers at the diner about shady dealings tied to Dalton. Unsure if it was just gossip or something more, they decided to dig deeper. They learned that Dalton had recently been spotted near the river where Jake found the badge, raising further suspicion. With each new clue, Jake felt the case starting to shift in his favor, but he also realized the stakes were rising. If Dalton was connected to the sheriff's death, confronting such a powerful figure could endanger them all. As fear mingled with determination, Jake resolved to uncover the truth, no matter the risks involved. The tension in Clearwater reached its peak as Jake and his friends decided it was time to confront Frank Dalton directly. They arranged to meet him at the old boathouse by the river, a location that held haunting memories and dark secrets. As they approached, Jake's heart raced, knowing this encounter could either save him or seal his fate. Dalton stood with a group of men, their expressions hardened and threatening. "I hear you've been asking questions, gambler," Dalton sneered as they stepped closer. "You should know when to keep your nose out of other people's business." The words dripped with menace. Jake felt Maggie and Charlie's presence beside him, their support giving him strength. He took a deep breath and replied boldly, "I'm not afraid of you, Frank. The sheriff had enemies, and I believe you're one of them. What did you have to do with his death?" Dalton's smirk faded as anger flashed in his eyes. "You don't know what you're meddling in," he threatened. Just then, a voice from behind Jake spoke up, an unexpected ally from the townspeople who had previously doubted him. "He's right, Dalton. We all deserve to know the truth." The dynamic shifted as more townsfolk began to rally around Jake. What started as a confrontation between him and Dalton turned into a collective stand for justice against hidden motives. The allies Jake never expected were now beside him, ready to expose the truth lurking beneath the surface of Clearwater. As the townspeople rallied behind Jake, a wave of determination swept through Clearwater. The confrontation sparked a series of discussions that led to the uncovering of vital evidence. Witnesses began to share more stories, revealing that Sheriff Wilkins had been investigating illegal activities tied to Frank Dalton and his associates. It turned out that the sheriff had uncovered a smuggling operation hidden under the guise of legitimate business, which posed a significant threat to powerful figures in town. With this new information, the townsfolk realized how misplaced their trust in the council had been. Mayor Thompson and his allies had acted out of fear of losing control and influence, hastily blaming Jake to deflect attention from their own failures to protect the community. As public sentiment shifted, more people began to see Jake not as a suspect but as a victim of a larger conspiracy. Jake's heart raced as he watched the truth unfold, sparking anger and hope within the crowd. With the evidence mounting against Dalton, the mayor was forced to confront the reality of his actions. The council called for an emergency meeting where Jake stood at the center, supported by friends and community members. The truth behind Sheriff Wilkins' death was finally being revealed, and justice was no longer just a distant dream, it was within reach. In the days that followed the revelation of the truth, Clearwater slowly returned to a sense of normalcy. The council, now acknowledging its mistakes, officially exonerated Jake, publicly admitting that he played no role in Sheriff Wilkins' death. A community meeting was held in the town square, where Mayor Thompson issued a heartfelt apology on behalf of the council, recognizing their rush to judgment. As Jake stood under the warm sun surrounded by fellow townsfolk, he felt a mix of gratitude and humility. People approached him one by one, offering apologies and words of support. It was clear that his reputation as the river gambler had transformed from that of a mere troublemaker to a brave citizen who had fought for justice. Maggie and Charlie stood proudly beside him, their loyalty having made a significant difference in his journey. They had all learned valuable lessons about trust and integrity amidst adversity. As they spoke together with the townspeople, new bonds were forged. Feeling a renewed sense of belonging, Jake decided to take on a more active role in the community. He organized fishing events and storytelling nights at the diner, hoping to foster unity among residents. With every story shared and every laugh exchanged, Clearwater began to heal, marking the beginning of a brighter chapter for Jake and his beloved town. As Jake embraced his new role within the community, he often reflected on the events that had transpired in Clearwater. The journey from being a mere fisherman to a central figure in a wrongful accusation had taught him profound lessons about justice and trust. He realized how quickly fear and suspicion could distort the truth, leading even good people to jump to conclusions without all the facts. During quiet evenings by the river, where he once enjoyed solitude, Jake would see families gathering, laughter echoing against the backdrop of rushing water. It reminded him of how easily misunderstandings could sow discord, and he felt a responsibility to encourage open dialogue among townsfolk. Together, they needed to learn from the past and build a stronger community based on understanding rather than fear. Jake initiated discussions during his storytelling nights at the diner, urging everyone to consider different perspectives before forming opinions. He believed that true justice was not just about punishing wrongdoers but also about fostering an environment where trust could flourish. As he shared stories of redemption and forgiveness, he hoped others would reflect on their own actions and beliefs. In doing so, Clearwater gradually transformed into a place where compassion triumphed over suspicion. Jake knew that while the truth had ultimately prevailed for him, it was vital for everyone to commit to seeking truth together, ensuring that such injustice would never happen again.